The Interlopers, a short story by Saki. In a forest of mixed growth, somewhere on the eastern spurs of the Carpathians, a man stood one winter night, watching and listening, as though he waited for some beast of the woods to come within range of his vision, and later, of his rifle. But the game for whose presence he kept so keen an outlook was none that figured in the sportsman calendar as lawful and proper for the chase. Ulrich von Gradwitz patrolled the dark forest in quest of a human enemy. The forest lands of Gradwitz were of wide extent and well stocked with game. The narrow strip of precipitous woodland that lay on its outskirt was not remarkable for the game it harbored or the shooting it afforded, but it was the most jealously guarded of all its owners' territorial possessions. A famous lawsuit, in the days of his grandfather, had wrested it from the illegal possession of a neighboring family of petty landowners. The dispossessed party had never acquiesced in the judgment of the courts, and after a long series of poaching affrays and similar scandals, had embittered the relationship between the families for 3 generations. The neighbor feud had grown into a personal one, since Ulrich had come to be the head of his family. If there was a man in the world whom he detested and wished ill to, it was George Zanem, the inheritor of the quarrel and the tireless game snatcher and raider of the disputed border forest. A feud might perhaps have died down or been compromised if the personal ill will of the 2 men had not stood in the way. As boys, they had thirsted for one another's blood. As men, each prayed that misfortune might fall on the other. And this wind scourged winter night, Ulrich had banded together his foresters to watch the dark forest, not in quest of 4-footed quarry, but to keep a lookout for the prowling thieves whom he suspected of being afoot from across the land boundary. The roebuck, which usually kept in the sheltered hollows during a storm wind, were running like driven things tonight, and there was movement and unrest among the creatures that were wont to sleep through the dark hours. Assuredly, there was a disturbing element in the forest, and Ulrich could guess the quarter from whence it came. He strayed away by himself from the watchers whom he had placed in ambush on the crest of the hill, and wandered far down the steep slopes amid the wild tangle of undergrowth, peering through the tree trunks and listening through the whistling and skirling of the wind and the restless beating of the branches for sight and sound of the marauders. If only on this wild night in this dark lone spot he might come across George Zanem, man to man, and none to witness. That was the wish that had the uppermost in his thoughts, and he stepped around the trunk of a huge beech. He came face to face with the man he sought.